Of course, General Katak of the Nori didn't touch the Diplomat, but the Interstellar soldier shouldn't have. He didn't think that people had diplomats. He supposed they had dogs that wore suits, spoke riddles from time to time, and were dangerous to be honest during discussions. The last Terran envoy had yelled at the Prime Minister of Trelv. Despite the ambassador's victory, Katak now stood 9 feet tall in the middle of the fury coiling through Zarn Prime's crystal hall, breath steaming from secondary gills, tusks twitching. Every movement of his muscular arms, every inch of his plated armor seemed to demand someone say something, but nobody did. Through his lens eyes, the balcony soared over 412 delegates from 117 systems. The crystal hall glistened with anti-humidifiers and social pheromones, either scent funnels or multiband perceptive lobes. In the backdrop, a tri-harmony choir of Tsar officials hummed. The sound made some species nauseated, others fertile. It was a room designed to preserve order. Ambassador Miles Harlan showed up humming an old girl's song. He didn't use the bioquantum loop to shift, glide, or teleport. He just stepped in, holding a leather-bound notebook, dressed in a rumpled black suit with elbow patches. No interpreter, no entourage. He squinted upward and muttered, "Drone, no weapons, not even a rank insignia. Apologies, I got lost in your biomorphic passageways." From the balconies, one of the delegates murmured, "Is this the human envoy?" Katak, a serpentine Gibeon, hissed with laughter. Harlan glanced at him, then at his chair, and demanded in a voice like wet thunder on steel. Then he sniffed the steaming beverage a shaky Tsar assistant had offered him. "This smells like wet," he said, blinking. "Apologies. It is ceremonial broth," the assistant responded, bowing low. Harlan bowed as well, took a sip, winced, and then reached under his coat to retrieve a thermos. As the frond struck the floor, he swirled the ceremonial bowl and added a dab of pine needle tea, making it smell like wine. That was enough. From Sector D, an ambassador roared, "The human is contaminating the sacred liquid." Harlan, undisturbed, replied, "Just diluting the regret there." Katak took a step forward. More voices rose, some anxious, some intrigued. "This is not how Arlen diplomacy usually proceeds," Harlan muttered. "Normally it includes far fewer death threats. I haven't even threatened anyone yet." He snapped his notebook shut. "But I did do my homework, and your tendrils just twitched in a rhythm that matches your race's challenge posture. 3 eyes, and you know what I do next. You intend," he continued, "to consecrate some ancient clause in a galactic accord trial, claim the dual honor variation. You'll say that by refusing your ceremonial broth I've insulted you, then you'll try to kill me." Silence. Katak bore his tusks. "I respect the pageantry," Harlan said calmly, "but I simply had a question, General. Is your ego worth a planetary war?" Katak grinned, and it wasn't a friendly one. He reached into a belt pouch and produced a sacred scroll. The glyphs shimmered crimson as he declared, "By the privileges granted to the high houses, since the insult was made public, I demand a sacred duel of honor." A Zarn officiator fluttered downward with the resolution, ceremonial and sweet. "Are you up for the challenge, Ambassador, or will you concede and offer public groveling?" Harlan replied evenly, "Excuse me, but what happens if I decline?" "Then humanity is declared ambiguously hostile," came the reply. "All treaties nullified, trade collapsed, embassies vacated. And if I accept? You die." Harlan exhaled thoughtfully. "So either extinction or extinction." He unscrewed his thermos and poured another cup, watching as a diplomatic drone floated above the crystal dome, pheromone clouds thick behind it. Then came the chirping translation into 117 languages spread across the auditorium. As per custom, Katak removed his armor plates. Underneath, he stood like a bone-sculpted war statue in sacred battle mail. From the floor, a dual platform rose, circular, graceful, silent. Harlan took one last sip of tea, handed his thermos to the Zarn officiator, and stepped onto the platform. Katak roared his first challenge. A blur of ceremonial weapon and fury followed, sword, fang, and bone fist. Harlan didn't strike back. He dodged the first hit, took the second in the ribs, and collapsed. Gasps filled the chamber. Cameras zoomed in. Delegates started preparing early statements of victory. The officiator raised a trembling arm. Combat had begun. Katak sneered, voice rising in triumph. The choir swelled behind him until Harlan began to bleed. Calmly, he reached under his coat and pulled out his notebook again. His voice was calm. For the record, General, I accepted the duel. You broke protocol. You struck before the ceremony was announced. That's a violation, subclause 58. Katak froze. You just committed what humans call an unprovoked attack on a diplomatic figure, Harlan said, stepping forward with a limp. A little red light blinked on the side of his notebook. Katak growled, What is that? Harlan stared him down. I'm broadcasting this footage to Earth's Emergency Intergalactic Command. We don't bluff, he said. We write. Katak lunged, but Harlan was gone. The air blinked. Gravity stuttered. Light flickered. Somewhere outside, the crystal walls began to pulse red. Dozens of delegates screamed as their defense shields activated. The alarm screamed in dozens of languages, but it was too late. The sound that followed was quieter than a battleship, more final, a whisper across all comms. Hades has been awakened. Beneath 3.2 kilometers of Antarctic obsidian, older than all flags, was the decision room. No one spoke there unless they had to. Director Afia Becky stood alone. Her hands were clasped behind her back, her expression composed, cold, electric. Before her shimmered the image of Miles Harland, slowed to half speed. You wanted war, he said. Now you'll get our version. AIA recorded it, no emotion, no echo, only archival authority. A soft, amused voice filled the room. Should I begin? Archive 3, one of 3 directors of pre-strike simulations, whisperers trained in every era of human conflict from Homer to Hiroshima. Archive 1 responded with Marcus Aurelius. Archive 2 added a childlike Sun Tzu in Latin. The Nordai violated ceremonial protocol, one stated. The treaty breach is confirmed. And humanity's response, someone whispered. AIA inhaled through her nose. Wipe the planet. Send flowers. The stress-mapped air tasted of electric frost and charred lemon. Open a secure, eyes-only command, she said. A dome descended around her. In it, a face emerged, Operative Knox. Black suit, no flag, just a serial trace near his collarbone, YLCY 00007. Packing status. Light loadout, Knox replied. Single case descent in 23 minutes. AIA nodded. I watched your report, and I've seen Harlan's footage 3 times. This isn't about vengeance, she whispered. It's about the ledger. 17 transgressions, 4 near extinctions, 8 species that believed humans were too sentimental to strike back. They'll learn, he paused. They'll burn, she smiled faintly. I corrected him. We'll write it down. Knox moved to the tiny alcove which had a mirrored wall at the far end of the room. It wasn't a mirror. Rather, it mirrored him as the assignment required, not how he seemed, specifically silent and unwavering. He gazed at himself without adoration. Beneath the smooth black tunic and beneath the cold silence was recognition. The man who at the age of 17 saw a planetary government fall apart around his outpost while brandishing a gun had been deemed unnecessary and subsequently transformed into a human record-keeping tool because he remained calm, didn't weep, didn't ask why. His emotional file appeared detached, stable in practice. The voice interrupted again, quieter this time. The automated system cleared the drop point, locked landing corridor. After 6 minutes of overriding the Tsar diplomatic clearance, it said softly, "Clear." When he turned, the tactical blindside civil quadrant coordinates were locked. He returned to the case, took it up, and used a magnetic strip to secure it to his forearm. Once it was aligned, he heard a clean sound. He proceeded to the hatch. Another scan, another pause. He could feel his heart rate dropping, not scared, just more acute. A mission that included compromise or uncertainty. This was the result of being over. The past century, people had neglected a ghost story, and now the floor shattered open, revealing a tiny ramp that plunged down into the shadows below. Luminous spires, man-made seas, public memory gardens that glistened with dreams, all so lovely and complete. Without a sonic boom, the ship slowed down. It became susceptible, like a shadow removing its skin. When Knox stepped outside, he was already being observed by surveillance units. The trail had just gone. Defense beacons blinked in unison, unsure if they were meant to welcome or alert him. He continued to walk past a giant-shaped floating bureaucratic kiosk. He passed a child-shaped fountain with tendrils covered in scrolling legislative bulletins, resembling a jellyfish. Memory itself physically changed to fit the viewer's memories, yet none of it slowed him down. His route headed straight to the ruling core, a tall helix of transparent steel, a combination of an archive and a place where all diplomatic data and law enforcement procedures were stored.